This episode, we are talking about the things that Star Wars took from Dune. And so,
borrowed, stole, ripped off.
You can. Some of it is more. I think as we go through it, we kind of see some. You're like, oh, okay, and there's some that he does a nice twist on, and then we can. I mean, before we get into it, so even I didn't know this, but in the first draft, Princess Leia was not what she was guarding. What she was taking was not actually the Death Star plans. It was a spice shipment, and so there was some type of a spice thing that she had. There was some, and it was that, and then he rewrote it, which makes a whole lot more sense.
Are we recording?
So that was actually what she was. What she, instead of having it in R2D2, I don't know if they had spice in R2D2, but. And there was a lot more stuff with the guild, like the guild, where there was a lot more of the political houses, and there was more of that type of stuff in the original draft, apparently. Anyway, so
once again, I'm enjoying this Starlight Coca-Cola. Wow. It is a space flavored Coke in honor of our episode. So
I have
hopefully Coke will sponsor us. Oh, there nice. You go.
I have
later. Oh, very nice. Don't hurt yourself. Don't injure yourself. Like
just brought them to me. We got 3.
So you got a Sith one, the red one.
They're all crazy loud.
You have all 3 colors. Very nice.
Yeah.
Good job.
Glue 2 of them together.
Well, you need 2 red ones then to do that. Because that was unchivalry. You can't to use 2. That's why only a Sith could use it.
Oh.
But, there you go. All right. So number 1, spice. Obviously, in Dune, huge. It's a huge. It plays so many. It has so many.
It's the ultimate MacGuffin.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, but then when you get to Star Wars, you get the mention of the spice mines of Kessel. Yeah, so it's mentioned, and I think I said in earlier drafts it was actually more. It played a little bit of a bigger role, but that one was a pretty obvious one. But once again, it's a little thing, it's not a big thing.
But you've noticed they've brought it back even more into the Boba Fett or the new series, and just conveniently Dune was just remade. Yeah. So hey, kind of weird how they would throw those together.
Yeah, I think to your point, the newer stuff is starting to pull even more because you've got people that are writing that are fans of both and sort of see some of this.
When he opened the box, released it into the air, it was a similar color.
Yeah.
Too, and it was sparkly. It was very cool to see.
Well, and it was much more of an economic factor, which is, how it is in Dune. It plays such a big part. Also, the psychokinetic, if that's the word we want to use, when you take it with spice. I mean, that's which he doesn't.
We don't know what the spice does to people in the Star Wars universe, right. So.
Well, and remember he kicked it over, and was that because and why did he do that? Was that because it was an honor thing and he didn't want to take it, or was that because he didn't like what spice represented? Whatever. Also, and then another one, number 2, the sandworms, which obviously are a huge
dragons
in Dune, but it's the Sarlacc is probably very similar because you think of the teeth. In Dune, their mouths have all the sharp teeth.
The rows of teeth.
Look like the same thing in the Sarlacc in Return of the Jedi.
Also, remember the like worm-like skeleton that they pass at the beginning of A New Hope. And then the crate dragons are what that technically was supposed to be. The crate dragon, though, later on and is revisioned as a very different animal. But yeah, there were definitely like sand-like worm creatures in the first, in the first trilogy.
Well, and the Sarlacc actually were they lived in the Dune Sea.
Right. So
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty. That pretty much tells you there. There were also the Luke's uncle was he was a moisture farmer.
Yeah.
Whereas in Dune, they had the dew collectors.
Right.
That's one of those that's pretty. That's pretty. That's pretty direct.
Yeah.
You just kind of change the name so that
Yeah.
That one was pretty. Like I said.
But if you look at that whole world, like one of mine was Arrakis and Tatooine.
Well, yeah, that was
Yeah, because again, like it's dry, desolate, that kind of thing. So I thought.
Yeah, but one thing to remember about George Lucas was a huge fan of Flash Gordon because originally he wanted to make Flash Gordon. He was declined. He couldn't get the right, so he wrote Star Wars. So the planet Mongo and the whole thing with Flash Gordon is there's 4 worlds. There's the city.
all right.
There's 4.
One.
There was in Flash Gordon, there's 4 worlds or 4 parts of the planet Mongo or whatever. And that's what he was paying homage to with the desert planet, the ice planet, the jungle, like the jungle planet of Yavin, the ice planet of Hoth, and the desert planet of Tatooine were all the different parts of Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon's world. Mm-hmm.
To your point though of him wanting to do Buck Rogers, isn't that why he started in the
Flash Gordon,
sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Why he started in the middle of the story? Because it used to be back in the day when you would go, they would have those, and I don't think they were like the main part. They were like a
serials, yeah.
So you would have missed parts. So you always came in like the middle of the stories. They were always sequential, but you weren't going to the movies probably every single Saturday. So you would come into the middle of a story, and I think that's why he did. And that's also
never knew that or never heard that, but that makes perfect sense.
And when I started thinking about this was watching Clone Wars, or not Clone Wars, because those were out of sequence. And you actually, if you want to watch them now, you can go online, and there's people that have actually done this one starts first, this one starts second. And that's why I think he did that.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I never thought about that, but that makes sense.
So it was always kind of annoying to me, especially nowadays. Why handicap yourself when? I get it back then, but anyway. All right, number 5 on the list is in Dune, the Imperium, the Empire in Star Wars. And those two.
Yeah. You had 2 emperors. Yeah.
I think that was another game of that was huge on Game of Influence, even more, because it's such in Dune, all that power play stuff, and all the political, in Game of Thrones. It's in the prequels. They tried to do it, but it was so boring. There's a Simpsons where they make fun of that, and they made fun of it on Futurama too. So there's plenty of where he tried to do it, and it's great in the book, and it's a huge part of Dune, as is in Game of Thrones. But where he tried to slide those in Star Wars, so well. The prequels in particular. But anyway, all right. The next one, number 6, the Rebel Alliance. So the Rebel Alliance and the Freeman, how they're both much more of guerrilla warfare, or it's
Yeah.
the rebels, that idea. This is one where he takes a little bit. It's a smaller thing in Dune, and then it becomes a much bigger thing in Star Wars. The idea
can see
of rebels. Number 7, Stormtroopers versus the Sardaukar.
The Sardaukar would just murder the stormtroopers.
It would cut through them like butter.
There would be no battle there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the idea of having
Mhm.
Absolutely.
of the Imperial force and all that, but yes.
Well, they have the different stormtroopers too, of different coloration.
Well,
and
then
that's how
they,
you kind of knew.
and now they've retconned the whole Death Troopers in there, the guys in black. So
Mhm. Special force.
we'll just ignore the stupid droid ones in Mandalorian.
Yeah.
That's one place where it is different. I mean, you don't have robots at all in Dune after what was it, the
Butlerian Jihad.
Yeah, after that. So that's one thing that's extremely different. This one's really a big one. Number 8, Princess Leia and Alia Atreides. I mean, they're only a letter away from
Yeah.
So
Very true.
And they both have powers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which
I never put that one together, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
which also kind of feeds into the next one, where you have the Jedi mind trick,
Mhm.
and then you have the voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jenny Vedra, and then
I never put that one together too until recently, but yeah, that's a good one.
yeah,
Definitely that.
And that one, in comparison to how they do it in the book, Star Wars totally ripped off how they do it in the book, because how they do it in the book is just a suggestive. And
Right.
they're magical, so they're able to suggest it in their normal tone of voice. And so those who don't know that, those who are not involved in the suggestion, or like as a recipient of the suggestion, wouldn't suspect that conversation as being something other than that. And it's more of a suggestive point, whereas like in the Dune movie, they're having to create a tone, so it's obvious for anybody around them. They can hear it, they know what they're going to do, and instead of it being
True, they differentiated. That's a good point. They differentiated in the movie, so they're doing it. But in the book,
they don't.
They do it to you, and you do what they do, but nobody else knows that that's what's That's what's going on.
Well, and that was a big part of the Bene Gesserit, because they were always manipulating behind the scenes.
And it was
they're very subversive.
They knew. Yeah.
I mean, they could tell if you were lying.
Mm-hmm.
They had that ability. That I always thought Next Generation took that idea.
Troy, the Betazoids.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was one of like an influence on it for there. But kind of along the same lines, this one, you have the two twins.
Mm-hmm.
Paul's kids are twins, and then you have Luke and Leia are twins.
Oh, it's twins, but that's not until
it's not in the first book. It's in
which didn't come out until. Did that come out before Star Wars came out?
That's a very good question. I thought it did. I think it did. It may have been right around that same time.
Oh, another fun thing, which I just thought of, since we're talking about like brother and sister action, Luke and Leia's, their attraction or whatever it was, in the second book, the Bene Gesserit were trying to get Alia to seduce Paul, and they had a moment there with her. She was indisposed, and they had a moment there. So I hopefully, I'm not at that point in the book where I can see more, but know what else happens, but hopefully nothing happens in that arena, because I don't like it.
Well, and that's true. I mean, that's actually, yeah, because I mean, if you look at uh, Luke and Han Solo and the whole "she kissed me" and all that stuff, or
Yeah. Because she does, Leia comes on to her brother, even though she didn't know. So their excuse is they didn't know. Whereas in Dune, obviously she knows and she's
right.
plotting. But I don't know for sure if anything's going to happen. It could just be the Bene Gesserit mother coming to her and saying, "Hey."
Well, and that's what they do. They manipulate behind the scenes to get their own way.
Yeah.
I mean, they do that like hundreds of years in advance. I mean, it's a
The long-term rules.
yeah. I mean, that's what they do. They meddle behind the scenes.
Yeah.
All right. Also, kind of along the same lines, the idea of a chosen one. How Luke was going to unite the Force. And then, there's the whole Messiah thing with Paul and the Moab Deed and all that.
And the jihad.
Yeah. Standing up against the powers that be. I mean, they both did that.
What are the chances they're not going to use the word jihad in the second Dune movie?
0%. They will not use that word. That's one of the things that I definitely don't think. I think they'll take a lot of the general references that in the book, they had a lot of references that they use for like the Muslim religion or Islam religion. So a lot of those centralized words like that, I think they'll remove those, jihad being one of them. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, well, Frank Herbert always said that the Fremen were the Arabs, spice was oil.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Well, from an economic standpoint, and then you had all the other stuff with the spice.
yeah.
Part about and why they were there. Although there's more in Dune than just that on why they send a house. Send House Atreides to a different,
Oh yeah.
I mean, the
whole political thing around
trying to get rid of them and all that. So there's more behind that. All right, there's also so you had in Star Wars, you have Darth Vader being the father of Luke.
Mhm.
In Dune, you have Vladimir Harkonnen is the grandfather of Paul Atreides.
Yeah.
And they're both reveals. I don't think.
Yeah.
So they're both plot twists, big reveals. I mean, that's kind of that is the big reveal in Star Wars. I mean, that's why you kind of why we learn, if I remember right, that's why we learn of Luke and Leia figure it out when he figures out that he's
Well, they tell him that, it's his sister. So
Yeah.
Yoda and well,
they're sworn enemies. That's the other thing that the other similarity there is they're sworn enemies. Luke, Darth Vader's his sworn enemy. Same thing with Vladimir Harkonnen. So that one's pretty. I think that one's a pretty direct one. This one's a little more. Number 12 is how Duncan Idaho and Han Solo, how they're similar, how they play sort of a similar character.
Yeah, they're cowboys. Yeah, I agree. Cowboy, cool guy, fly by my own.
They're the loners. Yeah,
but ultimately end up being heroes.
But Duncan is much more. I don't know. See, what's always messed me up is I always think of the Duncan character from the first Dune movie as the character from the book, and it's not. The book's a little bit more fleshed out, but not a ton. But he seems like a much more reserved character in the first movie. So, and you don't get to see that much of him. So,
Yeah, well, and then he's
But he's very much in this movie. Him and Han Solo very similar.
well, they kind of play the same
Swashbuckler.
right, and they play sort of the same. They fit sort of the same character in the storyline to the protagonist. You know, they're like the secondary hero, but in some, yeah.
Someone they look up to, someone, they wish they could be more like.
Yeah. I thought this one was interesting. And I don't know how much of a stretch this is, but Paul and Luke are both biblical names.
Oh,
I mean,
Yeah.
and there's so much of in Dune, he's exploring religion so much that it certainly made sense in that aspect. That one to me didn't seem as far-fetched, but I think, if he's trying to do like he did with Leia, where he just changed the letter, if he's trying to almost use that and do some of the same things, because most writers take something and they may use something as a template to start with and as a placeholder. And it looks very much like he used Dune like that.
right.
My internet connection is unstable.
Oh,
I'm just letting you
and
know.
Paul's like, what, 17 years older than her?
No, 14 or only 14 or 15, so it's okay.
Oh.
It's fine.
Well, it's more of an age.
They didn't grow
thing.
up
The fact that
together.
he's going to have sex with his sister. It's more of an age.
Yeah, but
thing.
they're both
closer
beyond.
age,
I mean, like to
why?
preserve the bloodlines, that's more important because they're both basically super beings at this point. So the whole morality of it should totally be thrown out. And that would be the argument with people going, "Oh my God, that's so gross." Well, no, they're both like totally like omniscient super beings. So
But they have
I mean,
the
yes,
same
it's
mama
wrong,
and
and
daddy.
no, he doesn't do